Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Open, sponsored by Face It and ELEAGUE. We have another amazing game coming up for you. It's going to be ANOX versus MELTY Esports Club. Joining me on the desk now, we have Ask Joshi, and I'm joined by Jurosar now. Welcome, Jurosar.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back here for the playoffs. It's been a really long 4 weeks of qualifiers. And finally, we're getting to the business end of the stick.
Well, as I understand it, last time you were here, which was a little while ago, you got to see ANOX play before. So maybe you can offer us some insight into the first of our two teams that we're going to see coming up next.
Absolutely right. ANOX are an incredibly powerful team, punctuated by some really good solo performances. A lot of people will recognize the names Cooler and Cypher from Quake. They have a large following. We had a lot of fanboying at the desk, actually, over the last couple of weeks. But I have to say, these guys are a team that arguably peaked in week 1 of the qualifiers, where they went through Rogue and went through Reunited to face Misfits in the final. And I believe they took the first map off Misfits as well, only then to lose 3-1. So when they're good, they can absolutely go on form and steamroll anyone. But we haven't really seen them hit the same heights that they did in week 1. And ever since, they've been like quarterfinals, semifinals, but they've been there or thereabouts, and then they drop off. So we have to ask ourselves the question, where's the drop in form here, and have they fixed it in the last 2 weeks? Because now they're facing potential elimination from the Overwatch Open altogether.
Well, what factors might have played into that? Because sometimes it's a team's energy, sometimes it's their communication. I mean, a lot of options here. And we have seen some changes to which heroes are sort of rising in the meta, which heroes are falling in the meta. So, I mean, when does ANOX seem to be their best? What heroes are they best on, and sort of when was their best point?
Well, actually, I think it was that qualifier. That qualifier was when they had the best bottled magic, I guess, was when they went through Rogue and Reunited. Like you said, they did take the first map against Misfits as well, and actually the first round of the next one was the King of the Hill.
Yes.
That they took the first round, and I was like already tweeting like, ANOX, oh my god, they destroyed everybody. And then I turned the stream off and later saw that they had been 3-1'd at the end. But that was definitely their best run, and it carried a lot of weight on Cypher's Genji. And we called it the Genji show or the Cypher show several times throughout the cast, and in following weeks as well. Like John said, basically they came back in the following weeks, never were able to reproduce that crazy run, and they actually ended up kind of middle of the road as far as points, and that's why they've ended up in this group here against some very tough teams, Melty and Misfits, as well as Bikini Beach, that we could definitely see tomorrow upset one of these teams as well. But I think it's just they had the one good run. Everyone was very excited. I think that ANOX actually boot camped briefly, maybe not all of their players, but they did have an opportunity playing in person for a little bit. So that can help some teams. It's not always, like a miracle cure or anything like that, but definitely can help to meet your fellow players and get a little bit more understanding what they're thinking.
All right. Well, I did want to ask you, Jurosar, if you had any extra insight into Sharik coming from the UK as well. But it looks like our maps are ready, so maybe we can talk about both as we bring them up and see what we're going to be playing on. First up is going to be Nepal, and I'm so excited. I love when Nepal is played. There are some amazing matches take place on this. Numbani going to be second and Hollywood third. How do you feel about this lineup, Joshi?
So I should point out, actually, we did get it a little bit screwed up the first time around. The 3 maps are not actually in this sequence necessarily.
Oh,
so the first map will be Nepal, but then it's actually loser's pick. So earlier in the previous series, we kind of screw that up a little bit, but there will be an opportunity for Numbani or Hollywood as game number 2.
Fantastic.
But Nepal as map number 1, I'm thrilled because we did not get to see it the previous match, and it is one of my favorite King of the Hill maps. I think each point has a lot of variety to it, and you can get a lot of great individual play, and I think Cypher's Genji definitely could be showing up here in this first map.
Cool. And we talked a lot about ANOX. Do we have any insight into MELTY Esports Club coming into this matchup?
Oh, so MELTY have, to say the least, a little bit of a checkered history. They were a force to be reckoned with all the way back in TakeOver, same weekend, of course, as Agents Rising, all the way back when. And they didn't win the event, but they took a lot of maps off a lot of good teams and were actually scrimming and beating all the best teams as well. They're doing fantastically. And ever since then, they've been very inconsistent. I think the last couple of months, to be honest, they really have been middle of the road a bit. I was hyping them up a little last 2 qualifiers, and I was here with ZP, and he was saying, well, actually, they haven't really done very much in the last month and a half, and I was doing my best to, keep the flame alive. But they just haven't put the communication together to be able to take these series. They've always had, for example, their Lucio getting picked off early on was actually a feature of the fourth qualifier, if I remember correctly. And it's all these small plays that aren't necessarily that player's fault, but you can see that the group of them as a whole are communicating somewhere, and it's leading to these small mistakes at the start of engagements. And that, I think, is the chink in the armor that ANOX are going to come in here and try and prize open.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out, too, that MELTY did have Crew on the team. Crew is now on Misfits, and one of the best Zaryas around was actually with MELTY back then during beta and during that first takeover event. So losing Crew has had a pretty noticeable effect on the results overall.
All right, well, we have a team here with a potential to be tripped up a little bit by the communication against a team of people who made their initial esports debut as solo players. So we'll see how their communication goes as well after we get back from this break. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere.